So the Nottingham has now decided to rebrand as the Nottingham Building Society, or more to the point, it's going back to being the Nottingham Building Society. But this time it's going to be with a difference. If you look up there at the sign itself, the Nottingham, it contains obviously the profile of Robin Hood, which will now be scrapped from the new that they will use, because apparently it's just not inclusive enough, which is particularly interesting considering the fact that there is absolutely no public demand here in Nottingham for the Nottingham Building Society to rebrand with a squiggly line of some description. So Robin Hood is now persona non grata. The most internationally famous rebel in the world has been struck out of existence, cancelled by the woke fanatics. Why is that, I wonder? My goodness, I've arrived here at the statue of Robin Hood, or Robin the Hood, at Nottingham Castle, and he's not been cancelled yet. He's not been banned, he's not been removed. Woke fanaticism just hasn't got this far yet, apparently. This appears to be the last hideout, the last refuge of the internationally renowned rebel. I don't know where his merry men are, or his merry maid. Marion. Yes, or maybe she'll be renamed to something more suitably inclusive and diverse, apparently, at least. As Robin, it would seem, just isn't diverse enough for Nottingham Building Society and the wokery-dokery fanatics who hate anything to do with traditional culture. What offends them so much about Robin the Hood? It's truly bizarre, in actual fact. At first spec, that is, to most people. But what really offends them about Robin Hood is what offends them about all forms of Englishness. Wokery is a cultural Marxist assault on traditionalism. That's the whole point of wokery, to eradicate traditionalism and to replace it with nihilism. Just absolutely nothing other than a new nihilistic culture. So perhaps the people at the Nottingham Building Society could explain to everyone why Robin Hood is no longer acceptable. Why it is, in actual fact, in their opinion, he no longer resembles, I guess you could say, an icon of diversity. Well, I mean, he was certainly diverse in his day, wasn't he? As he deviated from the path and opposed King John and robbed him of the taxes that he needed to enforce his tyranny upon the people. Isn't that libertarian enough for the wokesters? Well, no, apparently not. He's just not the type of person they want anymore. A squiggly line, whatever it's going to be, the new logo of the Nottingham Building Society, apparently represents diversity far more than them. But I can tell you this, here in the city of Nottingham, there was absolutely no public demand of any description from anyone to remove the Robin Hood logo of the Nottingham Building Society. It's just basically done on a fantastical whim, I guess you could say, for want of a better description. It's carrying forward the policy of eradicating culture, traditionalism, and replacing it with woke nihilism. And so I came here today basically to ensure that people could see Robin Hood as he once was, well, the statue anyway. In fact, I think it's probably best if we take some footage of all of these statues before they're torn down and thrown in the River Trent, maybe. One never knows. This is exactly the type of thing that the woke fanatics are renowned for. You know, these statues are becoming persona non grata as they wage their war of aggression, quite frankly, against any form of traditionalism. Culture is the enemy of cultural Marxism, and this is our true culture, and we need to preserve it. There's a what appears to be a greatly slimmed down Friar Tuck, reading from some sort of book. Perhaps that is also now fit only for a book burning session by the wokies, wokey-dokery fanatics. Perhaps we should just take a last look at these beautiful monuments to our past, to our heritage, before they're unceremoniously dumped in the River Trent. Maybe. Who knows? They have form for doing it, don't they? It would seem here at Nottingham Castle, at least, that Robin Hood may indeed be about to fire his last arrow. I don't think it'll reach from here to West Yorkshire, which is his claimed burial ground. But anyway, you know, it's entirely natural to assume that Robin, you know, who couldn't be defeated, couldn't be eradicated and destroyed by the Sheriff of Nottingham, is about to be erased from history by the Sheriff of Wokism, led by the Prince of Darkness, no less, whoever that is. I don't know, who invented Wokism. I suppose this plaque just doesn't fit with modern Wokism. It's a traditional marriage, apparently, anyway, according to legend, where King Richard the Lionheart joins the hands of Maid Marian and Robiny the Hood. I wonder what type of flag they'll be replaced with, or what other type of monument. Perhaps you think I'm joking. I'm definitely not. This is the road that we're on. This is the direction in which we're headed because of the Prince of Wokery. Take a good long look at it. Probably one of the last looks, in actual fact. Poor Robin, the great rebel. You know, fighting with Maid Marian and Friar Tuck against the forces of evil, led by Guy of Gisborne. Yeah? This is also persona non grata. This just isn't acceptable anymore to Wokism. This tiny band of fanatics who think they can dictate to everyone else what should and should not be acceptable. And then, of course, we have Robin Hood fighting Little John on a bridge to determine who was boss, I would presume, no less. Well, it would seem that the woke fanatics think they're boss, you know. Best leave thinking to us, in actual fact, as they don't appear to be very good at it, because they're not going to eradicate our traditional symbols. Absolutely not. We're going to preserve them against all odds. Why is traditionalism important? Well, it's always important to those who prefer the traditional way of life. It's the way of honouring our nation, our culture, and our ancestry. It's what connects us to patriotism and, of course, to that sense of nationalism that scares the woke fanatics so much. Cultural Marxism, you must remember, is entirely committed to the eradication of all forms of traditional culture, the destruction of the family unit, primary of which. And when all of that is achieved, there is only left obedience and love and loyalty to Big Brother in exactly the same way as the Soviet Union. And that's what this country is becoming, slowly and surely, gradually, progressively. Yes, the progressives are progressively wiping out every aspect of our traditional culture. What armies couldn't achieve across the centuries, the woke terrorists are doing slowly and surely, deliberately. This is what they regard as progress in progressiveness. You know, it's entirely up to us, the traditionalists, although they will call us many other names, most likely far right. It's their favourite buzzword, isn't it? Particularly Keir Starmer's. Of course, they will be deeply offended, I would guess, at being called woke terrorists, but that is my opinion. It's called freedom of expression, and I have the right to express it, and I have the right to defend our culture, and that's what I'm here to do at Nottingham Castle. I'm not here to retell the tales of Robin Hood and Maid Marian and Friar Tuck. On the contrary, they've been told many times. I'm here to defend those tales for future generations and to shatter this myth, this nonsense that they are not inclusive and diverse enough. Well, they are to us. We ask ourselves, in all honesty, just how much longer there will be a Nottingham Castle. If the woke fanatics, and that's exactly what they are allowed to succeed in eradicating our culture. Are we going to defend our culture? Are we the army that mans the parapets of this castle of traditionalism? Because in essence that's what it really is, isn't it? You know, we have to act as an army of traditionalists to defend our culture against the woke fanatics who are laying siege to Nottingham Castle, so to speak. And in practical terms also, we should never doubt that. There's Nottingham in the distance. It's a very different place than what it was prior to 1948. Perhaps we're looking at the gates of Nottingham for the last time. Maybe overnight the wokesters will come and rampage through the city and wreck it completely and eradicate it. Or maybe people will finally get a grip and decide to take action to defend their culture, to defend their heritage, because that is exactly what needs to happen here in Nottingham. And not just Nottingham, but across the entire country. People need to stand up to this woke fanaticism. There's no point in just continuing to say, oh, this is ridiculous nonsense, it's a joke. It's not a joke. It's a deadly serious assault on our culture. And therefore, we must act as the army of traditionalists opposed to this woke extremism, because that's what it is. It's quite bizarre in actual fact, because if you look at the council house here in Slab Square, as it's commonly known here in Nottingham, the Union flag is still flying atop. Perhaps Wokism just hasn't reached that far yet, apparently, anyway. But how long? There goes the tram. Perhaps it's truly inclusive and diverse, the tram. There's no rainbow flag flying from it. There seems to be this relic of Britishness hanging on in the city for dear life. Perhaps it'll also be raised with Robin Hood in due course. Perhaps the old trip to Jerusalem will have to go as well. It's just far too much a symbol of historic England, isn't it? Established 1189 AD. This is Englishness, isn't it? At its finest, I would say. And so therefore, because it offends the woke terrorists so much, and it's not diverse and inclusive enough, perhaps it will have to be torn down brick by brick. I think the resident ghost, of course, would be most upset as well. Yes, absolutely. Probably more upset than what we would be. In essence, the moral of the story is defend it or lose it. If you don't want it, it will be gone. If you want to keep it, it will remain. It's entirely up to you and me, all of us in actual fact, to defend what is truly ours. And this is our culture. And if people don't like it, my advice is this: they really should leave. They should find somewhere else in the world to live, because we're not going to surrender our traditional culture under any circumstances. Get used to the idea.